Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Second Act Actors. I'm your host, Dr. Janet McMordie, and I'm still a medical doctor simultaneously trying to pursue a career in acting. My guest this week is Cindy-Ann Boisson. Cindy was a executive assistant. She's also a mom turned stand-up comedian. She got into stand-up comedy when her son graduated and went off to university, and she was kind of looking around for things to do and decided on stand-up comedy. And she is now doing stand-up comedy, I'm going to say professionally. I know it's hard to kind of say that as an artist, but yeah, she's doing it professionally. She has an incredible story to tell about why she does stand-up, the ability to combine grief with humor. I'm so excited for you to hear her story. Special thing for this episode, if you are listening, if you are interested in trying to win 2 free tickets to her show at the Comedy Bar Danforth in Toronto on October 1st, slide into my DMs on Instagram at Second Act Actors. Give us your name. Or email me, secondactactors@gmail.com, and I will put your name into the proverbial hat, and I will pull names out of a hat, and you will win 2 tickets to see Cindy-Ann's show on October 1st at the Comedy Bar Danforth in Toronto. So definitely enter, because as you will soon hear, you do not want to miss her incredible show. Please enjoy Cindy-Ann Boisson. I think the cool thing about podcasts, I don't know if you're a big podcast listener.
I am.
Don't you feel like you're just sitting in their living room?
Yeah. And that's
talking to a friend.
The idea. Like some of my favorite, I listen to, the Mel Robbins, everybody loves that one. That's new. And it has a good sort of inspirational vibe to it. Fine.
Yes.
I love Smartless. That's like my favoritist of all.
Love it.
I love Angie Martinez. She does one called In Real Life. And I love hers because it's not superficial. It really deals with life,
Yeah.
And there's so many. I love Trevor Noah's. I was getting into this one with Emma. She's a British girl. I can't remember her name. But I listen to quite a few. But I have my favorites. Angie Martinez for sure, Smartless for sure, Mike Birbiglia, who's a comedian.
Yes,
he has one that is messy and I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a few, and now this one is going to be my new favorite.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I always start with, tell me your story. How did you get into this crazy business?
Oh my God. Let me tell you. So I've always loved comedy, and we call it home kind of shit talk, like old talk, shit talk. I'm a master of that. And so, but there was never a vibrant comedy scene per se. Back home, there's theater and there's storytelling. We are storytellers, very, very good storytellers. But in the US form, this genre of stand-up comedy where you just stand there and you talk about your life, we didn't really have that. And so I knew Sinbad. I'm the youngest, so I knew Raw with Eddie Murphy. I was exposed to that from a very early age. But I couldn't see it as a career coming from the Caribbean. I mean, my mom wanted me to be a teacher, you know what I mean? I wanted to be a flight attendant or secretary, which I ended up actually doing, executive assistant. But so I did something in 2009. I had started getting into a little bit of, like some radio stuff and some theater stuff. And I was like, oh man, I like the freedom of this. But it couldn't pay the bills. I had my son. My son was going to school. I opted to send him to private school, and there's a cost to that. And I just couldn't afford not to know where my next dollar was coming from, which is what the arts I mean, ideally, when they say struggling artist, they mean it in the truest sense of the word. Whether it's struggling financially, struggling mentally, there's a definite struggle. And so I got offered, a couple gigs in Trinidad to act or to get on board with some little troops. And I was like, no. How am I getting paid? And they were like, well, sometimes you'll get paid, but sometimes you won't. And I'm like, yeah, no. So I did nothing. I just dedicated my life to my son. At the time, I worked in insurance. My first real corporate job was with an insurance company. I started off as an executive assistant to like the managing director and but once I was there for 2 months, I was just there like on an internship. And so I was being paid a stipend. And after 2 months, they offered me a full-time job, but not in my area of expertise. It was to work in the pensions department. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm here. It was an okay salary at the time. I took the job and I did that I worked in pensions for 7 years. And what that was calculating people's pensions when they got to retirement. You would work out what their lump sum would get and what their monthly pension would be. And it was annuity and da-da-da. So I did that for 7 years. And then I moved on to work as an executive assistant to a managing director of his own company. And I worked with him for, I think, 5 or 6 years. And so with him in the capacity of, I started as his assistant, but quickly became the HR manager because it was a small company, you know what I mean? So I became the HR person. I was doing accounts. I was doing minutes at his meetings off-site. So I was doing all of the administrative work, which I'm very good at because I'm such a stickler for, this has to be this way and this. And I moved here. I worked at Macy's for a bit. And then I signed up with agencies, like employment agencies here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I've been here 15 years and I have probably worked a total of 15,000 jobs. But I didn't stay long. I would do a 2 weeks here and a week here because my son was swimming, because I was so involved. I didn't want a permanent job per se. The longest job I've done here is 2 years. Anyway, so once my son was off getting ready to head to college, I was like, okay, I'm moving back home. My father was like, no. Do not come back home. You need to stay close to your son. Because my son went to school in New York. And Daddy was like, I don't want you back here. I want you to be... And I will get a little emotional because yesterday was actually even 11 years of my father's passing.
Oh,
yesterday was the anniversary.
Oh my gosh.
So he was like, no. So this was 2013. If I'm going to stay here, I need to figure this out. Because I never felt like this was my home. Because I really never allowed myself to get in with the American culture, to be a part of it. I was at the pool and home and you know what I mean? So I didn't allow myself to even feel at home in Florida. Because my mindset was once he leaves for college, I'm out.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. I joined yoga. I joined a boot camp. I was just like, what do I do? And then I said, I've always wanted to do and try stand-up comedy. Looked it up, saw there was a workshop at the Improv, and I went. And 11 years later, here we are.
Oh my goodness. So, I have many questions.
Tell me.
First off, what is it about stand-up comedy? I know you said, like, deep down you are a shit talker, which is, I love that. I love it so much. I resonate with that. But, like, what is it about stand-up comedy above all other things you could do within I'm going to stand up on stage and do something world? What is it about stand-up specifically that drew you to that workshop that you found?
I think, one, being able to tell stories, that because I had so many things I wanted to talk about in terms of moving here and observing a different way of life completely. Two, I love laughter, and I love bridging pain with laughter.
Ooh.
You know, and just being able to tie the two together in a way that you can sort of resonate and really touch people in an emotional way and take them on a journey that they themselves are on. One, they don't have the courage to talk about it. Two, they feel as if they're in it alone until you say it, which was a huge part of the journey for me. Like when I started comedy, I didn't think that it was going to mean so much to me in the sense of that freedom to be so honest and vulnerable. And that's what stand-up gave to me.
Tell me about that first workshop you did. I've talked to so many people who've done a very similar thing. They've looked up in their community newsletter and saw an acting class or saw stand-up or saw improv and did the like, okay, I'm walking in. Oh, I'm too scared to walk in. I'm going to sit in my car and kind of compose myself. What was that like, kind of walking into your first stand-up comedy class?
Nobody's ever asked me that. Do you know that?
Oh,
yeah. It was scary because apart from comedy is new, I'm also entering a space where I'm not going to know anyone. You know, whereas in Trinidad, I would go and expect, I'd probably know 2 or 3 people in this class, you know. I knew I wouldn't know anyone. I had never done anything like that in a foreign country. So walking in and just go, because it was in the comedy club. So it was exciting. It was scary. It was very different. It was far from, when I got there, I don't know what I expected, but I remember kind of being like, oh, wait, notes. I thought I would walk in there and we would just banter, you know, like, you know, let me hear what you have to say. Let me hear your story. But they were like notes. There was a book to take notes because there were structures and rules and a formula for comedy. And I'm like, what? Okay. So I realized how little I knew about the art of comedy, of stand-up, about comedians and what it takes to make comedy work. Because like I say, I consider myself to be a really good storyteller. Like I can tell a good, engaging story. You know, I've always been told that. That's not what stand-up is, though. And that, for me, I remember leaving the first class thinking, okay, wow. Like, I didn't think I would have to study and I would have to, I thought I would just go and I'm like, I have a story to tell, but it was not, because there's so many layers that you have to understand what you're doing, where the story starts. What is the story? The why, the how. Why are you telling the story? Who are you telling the story to? What are you expecting? And then to wrap it up so that it punches at the end. Which is different. Storytelling, you don't really have to have a punch. You have a story and you tell a story and it takes you on a journey. Stand-up comedy, there needs to be some sort of conflict that resolves in a way that it's funny.
Yeah. What about that do you love? Because I think, you know, you could easily tell your story on a podcast, on a TED Talk, Toastmasters, that used to be a thing, right? Like, I know you said laughter is something you really love, but like what else? Like what was the importance of that punch?
It's laughter. And it's also, I guess, the connection in, like I said, I love bridging the gap with the pain that eventually becomes comedy. That is one of the most important things for me that I have learned and benefited from in comedy. And I want to be okay with that. I want to remove the shame from that, knowing that nothing is funny that was not at some point very painful or embarrassing. Funniness comes from that, right? Because if I say I went to the mall and I bought a shoe and it was beautiful and I got back home and everything and had a beautiful day, yuck, right? Now, if I go to the mall and I bought this shoe and I don't know why I didn't check the box and I got home and I had a size 7 and a size 10, but why, and that is where funny lives. Oh, I went to the mall and somebody stole my damn car in the park. I get mixed up with saying car park and parking lot. I'm like, car park, parking lot, that. So what was important for me to get back is the bridging of that pain and finding that salve to really be like, okay. And I'll tell you, I didn't really start to feel it until I had to kind of face my own shame head on. Because when I started comedy, I didn't do too much of what was hurting me. Like, I told stories, but it was more like, oh, I used to work at Macy's and and I would talk about those things. But in terms of addressing issues with my son, addressing issues in my marriage, I still have not been able to make fun or find a joke in my dad's passing. I've started to talk about my mom. I lost my mom 20-something years ago. And I've found some funny stories to tell about her. But not yet with my dad, which tells me I'm still healing. The funny doesn't come just yet. I did a show last year that I kind of touched on it, but it wasn't a stand-up comedy show. So I was able to cry and I was able to show emotion. But to just be like, my dad, I don't know. I haven't done it. So that for me was the importance of it, was being able to be honest and get over shame. I think shame and just the fear of judgment coming from from the Caribbean, where culturally we are conservative. It's very religious based, and I believe in God. Sometimes people are like, really, you believe in God and you curse so much, Cindy-Ann? I'm like, well, God gave me those words to use. You understand? So I'm not unappreciative. I understand that without God, we would have no dictionary. You know what I mean? We wouldn't have letters of the alphabet. Those things came from a very special place. And if curse words are what I can take some letters and juggle up and come up with, thank you, Jesus. And I believe God is a forgiving God. So if I cuss somebody out, I think he'll be like, Sanyan, I was wrong. Don't use my curse words for those things, So that was what was important to me.
I love to ask people who do stand-up comedy, why stand-up instead of improv? I know they are vastly different things, but I think, at least in my experience with people, improv has a low barrier to entry. And people are like, oh yeah, I'll just take an improv class. But something like stand-up seems way more intimidating for a beginner. What was it that made you choose stand-up versus improv? Team sport versus solo sport?
Well, I'm not a good team player.
Yeah.
well, let me know. Yes and no. Yes and no. When I'm in a team, I want all of us to work as hard. And that never happens. There's always somebody who's pulling most of the weight. And almost always it's me. Because improv is not easy to do either. I do improv as well. It's not easy. And they tie together very good. because improv allows you to think quickly on your feet. You know, to be quick with your responses. To put, like, I love my coffee, like I love my man, like I love my, you know. Stand-up comedy gives me the freedom to be honest. Improv, and I keep going back to that. Improv, you can say and make anything. You know, you could pretend you have a cup in your hand. You could with stand-up, you cannot I don't know how it works if you are pretending. You have to take the layers off. With improv, you can get into character and very quickly become a doctor or a police officer, or, you know what I mean? You're going to buy a donut, but, you know, you're a police officer and you're at the corner and there's a car coming. Move. And you immediately have to be like, oh, with stand-up, it's not that. You know what I mean? It's you, your truth, and an audience. And improv provides a sort of a safety net, because you could be very silly in a way, and you could, you know, and you could rely, if you drop the ball, you could just, yes, and your partner to death, you know. Stand up, you don't have that luxury. It really is you sitting in a position of, I own this crowd. I am here to entertain them and to make sure that I do this well. And I remember there was a comedian, and I was so scared. I was like, what do you do to get on stage? Like, I'm so scared. And he's like, when you get out there, you let them know you are in charge. Not in an arrogant, kind of like, I don't give a shit about you all kind of way, but in a way of, I know why I'm here, and I know why you are here. And let's just respect the roles that we play here in this, for the next 45 minutes. You are not here to entertain me or question me, or no, I'm doing that. And so I will take hold the reins and I will guide us through the next 45 minutes. And that's my role. And so that's what I love versus improv. Like I said, improv, you tag somebody in when you run out. You know what I mean? I'm like, shit, I'm out. You take it. Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to know what it was like the first time you performed on stage for an audience.
I look at my set. I post snippets of my set now, and I paced the stage for the duration of my set because of that nervous energy. And a bit of me thought I needed to do that. Like, oh, this is all part of it, to walk up and down and up and down. So the first time, I knew a lot of people in the audience, because once you do the workshop, you get to invite your friends and family to the graduation. So you have a captive audience who are there to fully support you. And you're like, oh, I remember being on stage and hearing the laughter and feeling so overwhelmed that I paused for a minute, because I was like trying to take it all in real time. And then the crowd was like, you got it, you got it, you got it. But I had so many people from Trinidad in the audience, from Jamaica, from the Caribbean. And even my other colleagues who were graduating on the same night, their family and friends were there too. And they were there to support us. So that was magical. Like, I was floating for a lot. I was like, oh my God, I did it. People laughed. I'll tell you one of the things that I did. I would even say my first time for a while. Now, like I said, I do love to curse, right? Not at people, but I just love that I could punctuate a sentence with. Can I curse on this podcast?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Okay. I just love that I could punctuate a sentence with fuck or whatever else. And for some reason, just the word makes people laugh, right?
Yes.
So just the word. So if I say, like, there's a thing I say about my son, and I say, I used to love him when I thought that fucker had some promise, right? Now, if I say I used to love him, I thought he had some promise, it's funny, But the minute I say that fucker had some, people are like, some people are like, which is another thing I love about stand-up. And I remember watching Patrice O'Neill, which is one of my favorite performers of like forever. He said, when he's performing, he loves to see 50% of the people having a good time, and 50% of the people are like, okay, what did he just say? Because there's a beauty to that too. Because some people be like, don't say, oh my God. And some people are like, yes, say it, and I love that. So so the first time when I did it, the laughter was so loud and the support was so huge and big and I remember saying, this is it for me. This is it. I found my thing. Yeah.
How do you build then a career in stand-up comedy, going from classes to now growing and, performing internationally, coming up? How did you build the career from there?
I honestly don't know. I guess one step at a time. One, for me to say, well, I did this and then I did this and then I did this. I just did what I started in, like I said, 2014 in June. I lost my dad in September. So I actually didn't perform for like a year after I lost my dad. And I didn't think I would ever perform again. And I started back in 2015. This group who had seen me perform reached out to me and they were like, can you do a show? And I'm like, well, no, I don't perform anymore. And they were like, you should. And I was like, no, I'm good. And they were like, you should. And I did. And so that was September, I think 6th or something, 2015. And I've been going since. I got very, very lucky where someone reached out to me to produce a show. And I was like, I have just been doing comedy, I would say, for about a year. I have no idea about producing a show. It was a Trini lady who had a restaurant. And I said, I don't know what this is. And I had a friend with me and she said, Sin, I'll help you. If this is something you want to do, I think you should say yes. And I was like, okay. I said yes, and then we figured it out. I had a couple of very good friends come on board. We came up with a name. A friend of mine gave me the name for the show. And we did the show. And I remember when we advertised the show, it was like 120 people, the first show. But it was, we couldn't sell any more tickets, and people kept calling. I'll stand, Sonana. And I was like, we can't. And so because I was pushed into that, I did that first show in 2016. And I went home in 2017. I was home for like 4 or 5 months. I went to sort out some stuff with my dad. And some friends were like, oh, are you doing a show? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I didn't come for that. And they were like, are you crazy? You have to do a show. And I'm like, I cannot even. And they were like, Cindy-Ann, we want to see you too. And I was like, okay. And another friend in Trinidad went with me to the venue. We booked the venue and I produced a show in Trinidad for the first time in 2017. And I know because of that, I started doing my own production annually. I would do one in Florida and then I would fly to Trinidad and do a show. And I guess that's how it all just, started to snowball into something bigger. And I would say that's how I got into producing and being able to headline and just making money. Because, you don't make money doing it. I hope you know. In the arts. Yeah. People see me. It's so funny. People see me busy here working all the time doing shows here, and they think I'm being paid $800-900 US a show. Isn't that funny? That is the real joke. I'm like, man, you are so far from the total figure that I make per show. Like so far. Even with acting, how much how many things you do.
Oh my God. Just hemorrhaging money.
Listen, yeah. So that's how I started building my career in stand-up. Producing my own shows, creating my own opportunities with the help of, I call them my tribe called Bess, because I have a really good group and core of people that rally and support me like I couldn't ask for better. So.
Love that. Do you have any advice for anyone who might be interested in trying something like stand-up comedy or even just anything more creative later on in life?
Just do it. I would say my first thing, if I were to advise anybody, I would say do some healing of your own first. You can get into it. I would say start, but understand that love yourself. And that journey will probably take them to that self-love too, because it did for me. Get yourself to a place of loving yourself so that it doesn't, because the hate comes, the noise comes, and it can take a toll on you. I mean, like at the beginning of my career, and because people are unkind. Do you and do not listen. I remember Joan Rivers had a quote. She said, do not take, I'm paraphrasing, but it was to the tune of, don't take advice from anyone who, one, isn't doing it themselves, two, that you do not respect. You know what I mean? And so never take advice from somebody who, because people love to talk, right? And the people who are the loudest are usually ones who are very inexperienced, who themselves are not doing jack shit, except sitting on the sidelines to critique and you're just like, shut up, do it, but do it for the right reasons. Do not go, I would say, do not go into the stand-up comedy, acting for money, because you have already lost. Because you do it for the love of it, for the passion. Have a job so that you don't get overly frustrated when you realize the money is not coming as it should, or you thought it would, or the opportunities, because it comes and goes in waves, right?
Yeah.
And if you could maybe buy a surfboard to ride away. Maybe buy a surfboard before you get into it, because when the wave comes, it comes. But then just like every wave, it crashes and it just subsides for a while, and then you're there in this low tide, just kind of, waiting for something else, for another current or whatever you want to come to take a wave again. And invest in a surfboard, I would say, and do not go into it for money. Because if I was doing stand-up comedy for money, I would be out a very long time. Yeah.
That surfboard analogy is beautiful. I've never heard that before. It's hilarious, and also it's beautiful. I don't know of any other career that has that so distinct peaks, valleys, crests. There is zero predictability. Even the most famous actors. I remember hearing an interview with Sharon Stone, and she one year didn't qualify for the acting insurance because she didn't have enough jobs.
Yes. Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. I just did a workshop here too, and they spoke about that. They're like, look, if you want to qualify for the insurance, you take some gigs as an extra. So some top actors, when they realize, oh wait, I'm coming to this point now where if I do not make X, I don't qualify, they take extra gigs.
Yeah.
As back, you know what I mean? As extras on set, like just in the background, just to get that extra money. Not there's so many of us doing it, and so there are a lot of people who are extremely successful, but there's so many of us who, and I will not say that I'm not successful, because money isn't the only what do you call it, definition or of success, right? I'm very proud of my accomplishments. I feel very successful in stand-up. Have I made it? No. You know, I've made it this far, and I'm hoping to make it further. That's my prayer, and that's my belief that I will, if I keep working and I keep, you know, there's some light at the end of the tunnel. So, but this success, when I say I'm not successful, like I'm not paying all my bills with money that I make from stand-up. I have other streams of income that help me live. Yeah, but it's not something you get into for money. And the people who are in it for money, I think they're doing the art form a disservice, because when you are in it for money, you start sort of cutting corners, because there's a desperation and a need for money, right? So instead of giving it the attention it needs and the love and perfection, and you're like, man, I just need $100. So I don't care. Or I just need $50. You know, I remember years ago talking to a group, I was like, you know, we should have a minimum where this is what we charge as comedians, right? In this area. People were like, nobody was, I mean, a couple of people were interested, but for the most part, you know, because people like, maybe you could say no to a gig, but I can't. So if somebody's offering $20 and I need $20 to put gas in my car, I'm taking the gig.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't get upset for that. But not everyone is in a position to say no. And I would say try and put yourself in a position to say, and not, I mean, I say that, but I also read Shonda Rhimes' book, The Book of Yes, right? The Year of Yes. But it's also okay to say no.
Yeah.
To know your worth. Because I have said yes to gigs, and I got there and I left feeling so horrible.
Yeah.
You know, about myself, about what I just did. I'm like, it didn't even benefit me. Like, I just left feeling like, oh. Now I'm older. I've been in it much longer. And I ask questions, which people hate, by the way. You know, if somebody says, can you do X, Y, Z? And you come back with, well, can you first tell me, bap, 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 bap? People like, oh, she's problematic.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, she's going through menopause. Oh my God, she's PMSing. Why does she need all of this information? Just say yes or no.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that now. I'm like, tell me, because none of us will be happy at the end of the gig. You will not be happy. Your audience is not going to be happy. And I will not be happy. So tell me what we're working with, and I'll tell you if I'm the best fit for the job.
I love that. It's so frustrating, but I also love that.
It's so true.
Oh, God.
It's true.
On a lighter note, do you have any favorite moments on stage? Any favorite or funny moments or times in your career that you just look back on with joy?
It's so funny. And thank you for asking me that, because I am naturally the person who would linger and ruminate on the worst things that I've ever, all of the bad things. I'm the person who will walk into a room and it will be a full room and 2 chairs are empty, and I would spend my set for the first 15 minutes wondering why those people didn't show up. So now you're asking me my favorite. Oh, I would have to say this year I did 2 shows in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, in Trinidad. I always say Trinidad and Tobago, but just to be clear, the shows were actually in Trinidad. Right. And my son opened. I know. That would be for me. Yeah. We were going home together we had booked the flight and everything. I didn't plan on doing any shows. Somebody reached out and asked me about doing a show after Carnival. And I said I wouldn't be home after Carnival. I got off the phone and I thought, oh, but I'll be home before. And then I started the Red Woman tour. So Trinidad was my first stop. I had the Red Woman tour already on canvas, already, and figuring out where we're going to start. I was looking at Atlanta Fringe Festival. I was looking at different things. Okay, I'm going to do that. So when the guy reached out, I was like, we can start in Trinidad. And so I asked my son, I said, would you open for mommy? And he was like, sure. So he just, he did, when I say open, he went on stage. He did he's like just a natural. Yes, I say that because it's my son, but also because it's true. And so he just got on stage and he said, he welcomed everybody. Thank you for coming. Da, 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 da. And he said, because there's a thing in Trinidad about red woman. Mm-hmm. So a red woman in Trinidad is somebody who's like my complexion. And they say we are so bad, right? So we're labeled as the worst thing ever in terms of breaking a man's heart. That we're bad. But it can also be a term of endearment because growing up, everyone called me Reds. Like my aunt, my cousin, Reds, come and do da-da-da-da, Reds, da-da-da-da-da, So it's a term of endearment, but it's also, a big joke where people are like, never go out with a red woman. The worst thing you could do is go out with a red woman because we're so demanding and we're so bad and, Anyway, so he was like, growing up, my uncles warned me. They were like, Keegan, stay away from red woman, because they're bad and they would ruin your life. And he was like, well, little did we know at the time that my mom was the worst red woman ever. Right? And then he said, please welcome on stage my mom. Right. Oh. So I would say that for me would be the most memorable that I could think of in this moment. Because that happened this year, Oh,
yeah. Do you have anything you're looking forward to coming up?
Toronto.
Spoiler alert!
Toronto, October 1st at the Comedy Bar Danforth. As they do. I see, this is a new thing, right?
Or like the
Yeah. Toronto. I'm looking forward to Toronto. It's my first time headlining a comedy club in Toronto, in Canada. I've done shows before in Toronto. I've done Trinidad and Tobago versus Jamaica. There's this annual Mother's Day show that they do in Toronto. So I've done that 3 times. Did it, I think, 18, 19, and 23. But it's the first time I am headlining a comedy club in Toronto. And I am stoked.
We are so stoked to have you. This is so exciting.
I know.
I always end with, do you have any final words of wisdom or advice?
Ooh. Wait, before we end this, we have to give away 2 tickets. How are we doing that? Did Danielle tell you about that?
Yes. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about it in my intro and talk about it in my outro, and then I'm going to do some social media posts.
Okay, fine.
Along with probably the clip of us just celebrating about Toronto that we just did.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me the last question, if I have any advice.
Yeah, do you have any words of wisdom or advice?
Words of wisdom or advice. I want to say, what is coming to mind is what my dad said to me from very young. And at first I remember thinking, but that's selfish. He would always say to me, you are the top 10 most important person in your life. And I need you to remember that. you, 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 you.
Oh.
And I was like, Dad. He's like, you are. Because if you don't do you, nothing else gets done.
Mm.
And that, to me, I tell my son that now. Because I see so much value in it. And my mom said to me, I have this in one of my shows. My mom told me years ago, and she would say it on repeat. We never had a Bible in the house. Although we were going to church, I'm Catholic. But when I started secondary school, we needed a Bible. And I would say to people exactly what my mom said to me. Your Bible is in your heart. And if you live good, generally, if you treat people fairly, if you treat people with respect, if you treat people with love, and those that you don't love, you give them distance, I think you're good to go. Your Bible is in your heart. So my word of wisdom would be that. We're guided here. I really believe that. I really do. We know when something feels bad or feels wrong. Some of us are more in tune with it and better able to listen to it. Because sometimes your intuition tells you something, but we're not equipped to follow through, or we're scared to follow through, or we don't quite understand what it means. Whereas some of us are very in tune with our intuition. So
I love that. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and thank you, Cindy-Ann, for being my guest this week. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to share your amazing story with me and with my guests. Oh my goodness, I got choked up during her episode, as you probably saw and or heard. Just an incredible story. As I mentioned in my intro, I'm going to remind you again, if you would like to win 2 tickets to see Cindy-Ann's show at the Comedy Bar Danforth on October 1st in Toronto, slide into my DMs on Instagram at Second Act Actors, or shoot me an email, secondactactors@gmail.com. Give me your name and I will enter it into the, proverbial whatever magic hat that I will use to pull a name out. And like I said, you'll win 2 tickets if you're the lucky winner to see her show October 1st, the Comedy Bar Danforth. If you don't win, I'm very sorry. But also, you should go see her incredible show. I'm going to say it one more time. October 1st at the Comedy Bar Danforth. Go check out the incredible Cindy-Ann Boisson. And I hope you all will tune in next week for another episode of Second Act Actors. Bye!